Thank you for waiting. As you may remember, for people who were here in the morning, Dimitris was introduced as he came into the room like you were introduced a rock star. You remember that? So you're in the presence of the rock star of one of the largest franchise companies in the world, many $billion in valuation, just staved off a huge takeover event a couple of days ago. Bhuvanesh had sent in a whole list of questions saying, stick with the script. But we're going to go a little off script today. So we're going to do this in 3 parts. The last part is Dimitris' suggestion to all of you hoteliers and travel partners. So Dimitris, yours is the only company that came in with the franchise product in India, but stayed the course. Ups and down, dips in many, many years. The other brands came in, tried it, went out of it, tried it, went out of it, kind of got disgusted with it. Now they are breathing fire again. What is the difference between the approach Manikis has taken, which makes it worthwhile, successful, and what's the advice you can give the colleagues here? Well, they shouldn't get in the business comparatively, but what's the advice you can give them to look at the logic differently?
Yeah, it was really interesting that everybody knew that I had a shower before I actually arrived. So that everybody knows that I'm quite well groomed when I arrived. So no, it's great to be here. It's music to my ears. People were talking about tier 2 and tier 3 cities earlier. And as you probably know, Wyndham Hotels and Resorts in India, that's exactly what we've done from the offset. We realized that tier 2 and tier 3 cities are important for the future of the country, and that's what we developed. And we stayed, loyal to the cause. We are the biggest franchisor in the world with 9,150 hotels. We know how to franchise hotels, and that's what we came to India, and that's exactly what we did. Where we anybody could be disappointed in the beginning because things were not as fast as we wanted them to be, but we never lost faith. The challenge with the franchise model is numbers. When you actually manage hotels, the EBITDA and your numbers are far higher. With franchise, volume and size matters. That's why, when you talk about Wyndham and we talk about the numbers that we have, we do know that the margins are far smaller. So we have to be faster, and at the same time, we have to have more hotels and more volume, and our size needs to be bigger because that's how we make the money. So we didn't lose faith. We believed in India from day one. We hired some amazing talent. We've got a great office here. We are hiring people here that actually supports our business across EMEA. So we believe in the export of talent of India as well. So tier 2, tier 3 cities, we believe in talent. We always knew that numbers are important, and at the same time, we stayed very loyal to the cause of franchising.
But, the funny thing is, you guys stayed the course and continue to grow, and you've got great talent working with you. A lot of the brands moved away from it, largely because they felt that the owner partners could not be trusted with the brand, could not be trusted with compliance, and our legal system is so slow, and therefore you can't get out of it. And they didn't want the headache of diluting their brand plus having this hassle. So they said, well, let's just concentrate on managing instead of going this route, even though the valuation of what you can get from franchise much higher. So how did you manage these Indians or in our area of discomfort that the other guys couldn't?
That's a big question. How do you manage these Indians? With difficulty. we had to make a gamble, right? We had to gamble at the beginning. We were lucky. I have to admit, we found the right owners. They established a great brand presence. They became our initial owners in the country. They became the showcase of the brand. So when we took other owners or new owners around and we said, look, this is how you do it. This is how you franchise, and this is how you support a management operation in a franchise world. People were like, okay, I get it. I can see that it can be done. Plus, another thing that we've seen around the world is like the growth of the white label operators. There are more and more people now getting into what we call the white label operators. India is not about exporting workforce anymore. It's becoming the management force. You see a lot of people now across the world. Actually, you remember, I don't know, I've been in the industry for about 32 years. In the past, you had to be Swiss or German to be a GM. That was it. Now, there are more Indian origin GMs around the world than any other nationality. Any other nationality. India used to be the workforce. Today, India is the management. So when we saw that and we realized that those people can actually do the work, we said, you know what? That's the place to grow with our franchise system. And there is another important element that sometimes you guys, and I love India, I come here so often, the backbone of US, and I know that today they talked about US hospitality and they said 16% or 16 whatever times per 1,000 people. Do you realize that the backbone of the US hospitality market, they're all Indians? They're all Patels from Gujarat. So 60% of the American hospitality industry, they're all Indian origin and diaspora. That is an amazing number. That's a huge accomplishment.
We're going to come to that point at the end as we
Oh,
discuss.
we're coming at the end of the discussion. Okay, so, I jumped the gun.
So let me interrupt you.
Yes.
So I think just individually you cover 2/3 of the world for Wyndham. So coming back to my original question, are partners in other continents and other countries different and easier to do with? Or it's, this category just has the same challenges regardless of where you are?
No. People love to say, oh, you know what, it's more difficult to do business with Germans than it is to do business with Indians or I don't know, Italians. No. It's all about, at the end of the day, running a hotel successfully, doing the right thing for the guests, making sure that you've got a return on investment. If it is a family business, doing the right thing for the family and getting the second generation involved. I don't think the stereotypes that, oh, you know what, these kind of owners are more difficult than others. Everybody more or less has exactly the same objectives. The circumstances under which they operate are different, but the owners' drivers are exactly the same.
But they're supportive of compliances and brand standards.
100%. 100%. And we make sure as Wyndham, it's not a free-for-all. It's you have to make sure that you follow the brand standards. That's why the brand standards actually exist.
So to extend that same argument, today everybody talks about ESG, eco, support, sustainability, local pieces that go along and how important it is. And my question has two parts. When I was managing hotels, the owners would say, but why do I need to invest in this? I don't see clear ROI from these new ESG sustainability practices. So, look, I don't want to spend unless I see my return. It was difficult in the management piece, but now I'm sure Wyndham also has a thought process on ESG and other absorbent. The franchise owner anyway is different, doesn't have to do it. It's part of your company's promise worldwide. How do you convince them? What's the methodology to use with them? Say, look, it's necessary, it's valuable, and somebody said social capital. Is the social capital the right trigger, or are there other triggers?
No, it's a great point. Actually, one of the things, and I've been to many conferences the last 2 years in India, and everybody's so excited about the future of India. But you do have to remember that the only drawback that I see in the growth of the Indian hospitality is that whole ESG and sustainability. I didn't hear a lot of people talk about how sustainable this is going to be. Is all that growth, all these airports, all these hundreds and millions of people traveling around India. Is it going to be a sustainable hospitality? So I'm not gonna answer the question. Actually, I'm gonna use an example, a real example. We have a Ramada hotel in Lucknow, And last year we had an executive summit there. And the owner won among the few hotels around the world, won Wyndham Green, our sustainable program, level 5, which is the top. And I spoke to him and I said, my God, level 5, I mean, American hotels haven't managed to do that. Hotels in Germany, they're far more, focused on this, didn't manage to do it. How did you do it? Why did you spend that money? And he turned to me and he said, I didn't do it for you. I didn't do it for your brand. I did it for my kids. That is the answer. Ladies and gentlemen, anything that we do as an industry for a sustainable future of hospitality, we do it for our kids. We need to give back to the planet more than we take. Hospitality is the number one or among the top polluters or unsustainable industries out there. You've seen what is happening in Amsterdam, in Venice, in Barcelona, over tourism. We have to make sure either you're a managed or franchise, either you are 9,000 hotel or one, that becomes our number one conversation. And we as Wyndham, we take this very seriously, but we're extremely happy that our owners are actually taking it more seriously than we do. And this is what makes me extremely positive for the future.
That's nice to know. We're a little off track now. Hoteliers, feel people don't want to join our industry. They feel it's too much of hard work, very little pay. But hang on, these guys like Dimitris, we treat them like gods. All the successful CEOs, it's like the star is born. As you saw this morning, he could have been a WWE fighter coming into a stadium full of noise, right? But so they feel that you are at a distance. You succeeded how? Yeah, he couldn't have had to work very hard. He must have been, put there with a fund. But, Dimitris has lasted in the same company, as I understand, for 37 long years. Give him a clap for that part. In the 37 long years, Wyndham has had many changes, as much as the challenge last week. So what were the highs and lows of Dimitris, of his life? How did he come out of it? I mean, you're human. You're not Superman, right? Or are you?
No.
And, can you tell us a little story about yourself? Because it might make other people believe saying, I could do that. I get the belief back in the system, and I don't see Dimitris as a demigod which can't be touched. So tell us about yourself.
Okay, so we didn't practice this. Three months ago, I lost my dad. He died at the age of 94. My dad never went to school. He lost his father when he was 6 years old, and he had 7 siblings that he had to support because he was the eldest. He grew up at a time when the Greece was actually occupied by the Nazis, so he had to fight the resistance and fight the Nazis in order to gain food to support his siblings. And he then became a very successful man, and he died, as I said, 3 months ago. And no matter where, at any point in his life or my life, he used to tell me every time I was complaining or every time I was asking, either me or my brother were asking for things, he said, you cannot have this because at your age, I didn't have shoes to wear. And he used to keep on telling me I didn't have shoes to wear. And now I have 150 pairs of shoes because if you have a lot of shoes, then that means that you are safe. So that's what I've learned. Buy a lot of shoes because my dad used to say that I didn't have a lot of shoes to wear. I never had shoes to wear. So you buy a lot of shoes, you're safe. So my dad was my hero. He taught me everything that about service and service culture. He had a series of supermarkets in Athens. Both me and my brother, we never followed his business because working for your dad probably was the worst thing that I've ever done in my life because he was such a tough judge. But I learned the value of smile. I learned the value of service. I've learned the value of hard work. I've learned the value of dedication. And I've learned the value of doing things for others. He didn't spend time with me, my mother, or my brother. And every time I was asking him, but why do you have to go to work on a Saturday? Why don't we spend time as a family? He said, I've got 500 mouths to feed. And I said, Dad, it's only me, my brother, and my mother. He said, no, I've got 497 employees that I have to make sure that I'm successful and I have mouths to feed. So from the first day I got into work, I realized that I will have people depending on me and making decisions of that nature and making sure that you don't do it for yourself. You do it for the people who trust you and who believe in you. And that was the main lesson. My dad was my mentor, but my biggest judge as well. He was a very tough and a very strict judge. But when he died and I look back at our history together, I was so glad that he was part of my life and I was part of his. So that's how I grew up. That's how I learned. And yeah.
But
that's
you know,
the
in
whole
my
story.
40 years, every 5 years I used to want to leave the business. Every 7th year I wanted to shoot my boss because I thought I wasn't being treated well. And of course, every 10th year you felt you were terribly underpaid. Did you not go through the same pangs like
Yeah.
we normal human beings do?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
how
yeah.
did you survive it?
Yeah,
You're still stuck with it.
No, yeah, because I realized that this is where I want to be. Yeah, you had disappointments, you had ups and downs, you had lows and highs, but this is what I love. This is what I want to be. This is the industry that I love. So why leave something you love? It's like my family. I have a very dysfunctional family. I have 2 kids, 2 girls, 26 and 24. I don't spend enough time with them. I lived in another country. They lived in another country. We're very dysfunctional, but we're still together. We love our family. Is it the perfect family? No, but you know what? You show me a perfect family. I haven't seen one yet, and that's what is beautiful about it. I had my ups and downs, highs and lows, but I love what I do, so I stayed.
So would it be safe to say there is no perfect career?
No,
But as long as we stay with the dysfunctionalness,
No.
I'll bring another point. It's possible for anyone to succeed.
Oh yes. Yeah.
So, and that's how you did it?
Yeah. I'll tell you a story. I don't know how many of you know Mr. Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
He is the biggest basketball player in the world, right? You know what Michael did after training when everybody goes out partying? He sat in that court and he was shooting hoops for 3 hours, 5,000 hoops a day. And everybody said, oh, Michael, he had it so easy. He's such an amazing basketball player. Nobody realized every single training he would stay back for 2.5 hours and shoot hoops one after the other, 5,000 of those every day. Hard work and training. So, you know what? You do that, I think everybody can succeed.
So let's flip another way. Your company went through many challenges, right? Some parts of it got sliced out, some part of it got rebranded. You stayed the course despite all these changes. What's the learning to everybody from there? How did you? Most people either abandon that or they don't have confidence in new structure. What in your mindset can be a learning which made you stay on course and still comfortable and pretty sure of success?
Yeah, stick to your values. You know what? If there was ever a point that my company didn't actually meet the values that I had and I grew up with, I wouldn't stay the course. I would actually go and find somewhere else. When every time we have a new employee or a new team member, there's three lines that you don't cross when you work with me. You don't drop your colleagues under the bus. You don't play politics, and there's only one agenda, the company's agenda. You cross any of those lines, you're not part of my team. And that's not what I learned. You know how I learned that? You know who was my real mentor in my business life? The worst boss that I had. I had a boss once that he was the worst individual I've ever worked for. And I worked for him for 5 years. He was my biggest mentor and most important man in my life. And you know why? Because he taught me everything that I don't want to be. A lot of people say my mentor is my best boss or whatever. My mentor, believe it or not, was my worst boss. Because every single day for those 5 years, he taught me the things that I will never do in my life to my team members or anybody who works for me or with me. So never drop your people under the bus. Always the company's agenda, and don't play politics. You do these 3 things, sky's the limit.
So Dimitris echoed a sentiment, and just for anybody's information, I wrote a book. In the book, that's exactly what I've said, that good bosses tell you what you should be doing and how you can do it. The terrible ones tell you what not to do, and that's a bigger learning than learning what is the right thing to do. You cover so many countries, there's so many different issues happening right now. Wars, economic, socio-economic, alive differently because each of the countries seem to have a different problem, but hotels suffer whenever there is a problem. So what's the guideline? Is it a simple one, or there are 2-3 parts?
No, I mean, I don't know. Every morning when I wake up, I watch BBC or CNN, and that's my business plan for the day. The days that we used to have 3-year, 5-year business plans are all gone. You now live in a world that we have a 24-hour business plan. You wake up in the morning, you put CNN, there is a war in Ukraine. You put CNN on, and there is Hamas and Israel conflict. You put CNN, and there's a fire in Greece or 45 degrees, and it destroys tourism. Every single day, it's a business plan. That's what I've learned. And you know what is really disappointing, and this is where I think we all have a huge responsibility as leaders of hospitality. 2.5 years ago, we fought one common enemy, united as humanity. That was COVID. Today, we're back fighting each other again. And hospitality is the only industry that unites people. We have a hotel in Georgia, in Tbilisi, and I was there about 6 months ago, and it was just amazing. In the lobby, there were families from Israel, from Iran, from Iraq. There were families from Egypt. There were families from Russia, from Ukraine, and they were just all having a wonderful a wonderful fun. And I turned to the GM and I said, "Man, you just solved the United Nations problem right here in this lobby." And I said, "Isn't it amazing? We are the industry that brings people together. We fought, united, we fought one common enemy 3 years ago, and now we're back fighting each other. And we have a responsibility as tourism industry and hospitality to bring back people and remind them that it's all about being united under one thing, having fun when you travel. Because now, my business plan has just gone down the toilet, literally. That's why every morning it's a new business plan. I don't know what the next curveball is going to look like.
So when we were chatting, all of us look for suggestions, and Dimitris asked me a very interesting question, saying, both to increase your outbound and more to get more inbound, why don't you guys in India activate the Indian diaspora? The Indian diaspora is still part of the community, and they showcase that anytime Mr. Modi or the AIL go there. They have evolved in a lobbying piece. Could we not, as a hospitality industry together as a group, activate them as groups to represent and push business for us both ways through? You want to talk a little bit about what you want to say?
Yeah, I just I think that you need to be careful as India hospitality, because everybody is, numbers and success is like a drug. You get used to it and then you cannot get away from it. I heard so many amazing stories of success, but there's, when the numbers looking good, then you become complacent. When everybody's growing and everybody is riding the ride and enjoying the hype, then you have to remember that anything can happen that can go wrong. And we have so many global cases. I think you need to mobilize every single Indian out there in the Indian diaspora and make sure that everybody understands the one message, incredible India. It is a real pity that you only have 10 million tourists coming in this amazing country. The question is, yes, everybody, including Wyndham, we love domestic tourism. We love all this hype that is actually and the growth that is creating. But remember, unless you introduce incredible India to the rest of the world, something can go wrong somewhere and you won't have an alternative. It's not just about domestic tourism. It's about showcasing incredible India. And that's what we as Wyndham Hotels and Resorts, we're trying to do. We have 6,500 franchisees in North America. 4,000 of those are of Indian origin. 4,000. And that's what we do. We work with those franchisees to introduce incredible India to them. And I'm very proud that I'm part of that.
So, just to kind of close up on that piece, maybe what Dimitris is trying to say is that particular larger brands and the international brands, because the domestic brands don't have external presence, maybe all the international brands owe it to our inbound and therefore successfully for outbound for them as well, to do something and group together the Indian diaspora for just the fact that there is so much that we can do together that we are missing out on, and we are crapping on themes which are short-lived, and maybe we just want to take a dipstick and say, is there another way? Is there another segment? Is there another conscience set keeper who can help us in the world of tomorrow? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention.